making ASMR videos and couldn't wait to film something again, but interestingly, this never feels that natural to me. But I like to do it. If you haven't watched one of my videos before and are wondering why, or rather what Whispoken refers to, it's clearly a portmanteau of whisper and soft spoken, which I use to refer to the quality or element in ASMR videos that I am always looking for, but which don't have a name. And it's this kind of oscillation between the whisper and soft spoken, the grays in the voice between the whisper and soft speaking. It's my favourite ASMR element. Yeah. So I don't know if I don't know if you do this, but I'm always living from a perspective of having learned something or considering what I learned. I think it comes from a retroactive anxiety. I want to be at the end of my life and not have so many regrets, or as few regrets as possible. So I'm constantly and inactively, by which I mean it's not a voluntary process, it happens automatically, thinking about things I've learned, whether that's through the day or the week or the year. This happens constantly in my head. So one of the key things I have learned this year is the importance of guiding, or rather, the importance of letting your emotions have a say in the decisions that you make. I know this sounds kind of obvious, but for a while now, for at least, I don't know, at least 7 years, maybe longer, I've just viewed my emotions as a nuisance and ignored them to the point where wasn't connected to my emotions anymore. To the point that if you asked me how I felt, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I had become so divorced from my feelings that I could no longer recognize them. And this was for... Sorry about that. Bit of authentic lo-fi experience. And I learned the hard way that you can't ignore your emotions, but I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing. If you have a lot of strong feelings, which I do and always have had, you feel, or at least I did, like you are on unstable ground all the time, riding the waves of emotions and feelings which have no origin or cause, which leave you feeling well, it was chaos. It was chaos. It was chaos. I just wanted to feel on stable ground and not have my emotions operated as though by a weather vane, constantly twisting and changing, constantly twisting and changing. So I just ignored them one day, and I kept doing that. I kept doing that. And I just guided, my decisions were guided by things like logic and reason, and having meticulously measured the pros and cons. Much of the time, when operating over the last decade, I felt like I was making the wrong choice in small and large contexts. But again, that feeling was one I didn't trust, because it came from a place that I had never been able to trust before. The phrase, "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater," comes to mind. But the water was very warm, too warm, hot, and so I just, The problem with ignoring your feelings is that you problem is that you ignore a real source of wisdom that you have by virtue of A, being a human, and B, having accrued the experiences that you've had and learned something ineffable along the way, which you can't necessarily translate in words, verbally or written, but which still live and exist inside you as a real source of knowledge and wisdom. And I was ignoring that the whole time because I didn't trust it. So something happened recently, and I started to examine why I so violently would not listen to my feelings from something as tiny as when I'm allowed to run a bath. I'd have these rules and procedures which I had to adhere to, or everything felt like it was chaos. Something happened recently that made me realize the way I've been living my life isn't beneficial to me or healthy for me or good for anyone. So I have been trying to connect with my emotions, and it has been wild. At first, I know I mentioned before, I barely knew what I was feeling at any of the time. My emotions were like clouds, separated by a fog, so blurry and so vague I'd have to squint. Now they're becoming a bit clearer, and what's cool as well is that I'm starting to realize I feel a certain way. I don't have to inwardly inspect. Normally, for instance, I'm not sure if this is the case for you, but I get the impression people just have an innate understanding of what they're feeling inside. This is not the case for me, but I'm learning. Like now, what am I feeling now? Well, I've got an itchy nose. I'm feeling happy because I'm in a room with loads of lovely lights. It's nearly Christmas. That makes me happy. I feel warm and comfortable. But beneath it all, there's a teeny tinge of melancholy, as there always is towards the end of the day, which is here at the time of filming in the UK. The end of a day is a death of sorts. I've always felt. So something I've learnt this year, and I guess I thought it would be cool to know what you have learned this year. Just one thing, if you had to boil it down, the most important thing. Like I said, I really love learning lessons. I hoard them like a squirrel with nuts. So if you're willing to share, I'd be more than happy to receive. Thank you for listening. If you've made